the broadcast. I am your host, Paul Dozier. It is Monday, April the 12th. Again, show number 11. Hope you can hear me. I know you can hear me over there, Facebook Live, but I'm looking at, I'm really paying attention to YouTube. My Mac crashed again, so I really can't check, but I do have the TV up there. But if I turn it on, it's going to reverb, so I got to be careful. Well, I want to try it. Let me just try it. Yeah, sound works. Okay. Thanks for joining us. Hey, listen, we are focused in on building businesses. It's no joke to be a business owner. Thanks, Lee. Lee says the sound is fine. That is my Jewish brother. He's like me, except he's Jewish. I love the guy. And hey, listen, we're talking about business ownership, and the reason why I'm doing it in a very casual way is I'm doing the best I can to speak in a language that most of us can understand. Not saying, and listen, I'm not saying that you don't understand business and you went to business school, you have a degree, you're a doctor in this, that, and the other. I get all that. I just lost a light. But it's not about that. That's not what we're talking about. No, what we're talking about is understanding what business is, because oftentimes it's confused with being self-employed. I was talking to someone today, very smart person. So it has nothing to do with being smart. It has nothing to do with your level of education. But the reality is there are only 2.2% of businesses in America that are owned by blacks. There are no Microsofts owned by blacks. There are no Oracles owned by blacks. Jay-Z just sold a significant portion of Ace of Spades. Business ownership is much larger than a lot of us. Because to be quite frank with you, when we talk business ownership, most people are more concerned about, having a certain level of income coming into their home, guaranteed over a period of, at a certain point, they think about what's pushed in our community is residual income. But the residual income in our community is at the level of sole proprietors and self-employed. So, okay, Paul, what's the difference? All right. Think of it like this. You can go to work for a company and they can promise you residuals and you can work with them for 10 years. But if they decide that they don't want you to work for that company anymore, you will also lose your residuals. That's not a business. Not unless you have built other streams of income and you're working with other contractors and you're employing other people. But if you're counting on a stream of income that is based upon a statutory relationship where you have no control, and I'm not just talking about one particular industry, folks. So those are things I'm thinking. No, I'm just talking about the principles themselves. Just the principles. I don't care about the industry. It's the way the contracts are written. Can I put it that way? So the way the contracts are written, that will affect your ability to do major things in your community. And by the way, I'm thinking about the community. I'm not just thinking about my family. I'm thinking about the community. You know, this isn't just about generating enough income for you to live on. Yes, I understand that that's what most people are concerned about. I get it. But there's, there's shooting for beyond yourself and creating a legacy. Takes more than being self-focused on generating a monthly income. It does. Residual income. Okay, cool. Let's say you get your residual income and you live on it for 20 years. Will your kids get the benefit of your residual income if you die, or you decide not to do whatever it is that you do in 20 years? That's legacy. Who benefits beyond you? Do you have to be the one to produce the widget, sell the widget, package the widget? Or can you leave and money continues to show up and the value of the companies continues to rise and you continue to employ people in your community? And you're helping other people rise. That's the business I'm talking about. See, I love objections. That can't. The Mac is just is not is he she's struggling. But listen, that's what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is what can we do to make sure that not only do we grow income for ourselves, but we provide a legacy for our kids and opportunities for our community. How do we build a business that builds other businesses? How do we build a business that builds other individuals in our community? That's why I'm doing this. That's the reason why I said last week, I think it was Friday, how important it was to understand your market. And by the way, like I've said in the past, if you're employed and want to be employed, this stuff really doesn't pertain to you. If you're self-employed, this stuff really doesn't, and you want to be self-employed, this stuff really doesn't pertain to you. And I get it. It's okay. My faith and my goal here is to get people in our community to want to build businesses. Businesses. That's what I'm after. I'm going through all this, if you only knew, to show you, to teach you, to collaborate with you about building businesses. That's what this is all about. And you have to know your market, and you have to know your demographics, and you have to know your history. I wanted to recap with you from when we got started, which was about show 3. So that everything that I'm doing is based upon the language of economics, told in a little bit different spin. This is not about finance. This is not about the money. The money will come. We all need money. I keep getting into these conversations with people who are so focused on money that they lose sight. Listen, you can be focused in on money. In the industry I'm in now, make your 10 calls, book your 2, and make some money. And just make sure you do that every single day, and you're going to make some money. You're going to accomplish some very large goals. This isn't about that. You still have to do those things, but this is about building a business. And for the majority of us, from scratch. Like, you grew up, went to college, got a degree, and was told to go get a job. Or you didn't go to college at all. Or you street hustled. And you made money. And you keep making money, but that stuff gets old after a while. You'll make money again. And I've said this before. We don't have a money-making problem. And I hope people we don't have a money-making problem. We don't have a problem making the money. We have a problem keeping it. We have a problem getting it from one generation to the other generation and to the next generation. That's a real issue. That's a real issue, folks. That's a real issue. You can brag about having $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $4 million in the bank for yourself to retire on, but once you die, will the economics aspect of your retirement last beyond yourself? In other words, will the lessons learned, back in biblical days, it used to be that tradition was passed on through word of mouth. So are you passing on the tradition of business ownership? Are you passing on because look, let me go back to it again. Out of 57 million businesses, blacks own 2.2% of them. Less than Latin Americans. Less than Asians. Businesses, not self-employed, businesses. Where you're employing someone or you're contracting with a group of people and you're earning an income that will last far beyond your individual achievement. Businesses. For that, you have to know your market and you have to know your history. In the third show, I talked about the importance, 3 important things, those 3 things there. But then I also talked about setting up the legacy and then also partnering with someone, maybe doing a business franchise. A franchise is a business. But if you're creating a model, which I am, and believe me, it is very challenging, which gives me an opportunity to learn and grow. I love it. I love the challenges. I don't know why, but I do. I love the challenges. Because I know the work that I do now is going to live on in my kids and my grandkids and their kids as well. So, if we're really concerned about black poverty, someone's got to pay the price to get the information out there and then take the steps to alleviate black poverty. That's business ownership. But to do that, you have to have a purpose. We all want to make money. We all need to make money. We all want to invest. We all need to invest. But what drives that is the desire to have impact. Even if the impact is just that to secure the future of yourself, your wife, your husband, your children, and maybe their children. Some people have a different impact. They're interested in the condition of their community. And if you're looking at YouTube, I'm pointing right now at the 9 aspects of community that I believe is important, which is economics, education, religion, labor, law, entertainment, media, sex, and war. Having relationships in those various aspects and sharing values together gives power to a community of people. Being on the same page, in other words. Working towards changing policy. Working on changing the condition of your community. Say what you want about different communities, whether it's the Jewish community, or whether it's the Armenian community, the Asian community. They buy and sell from each other. They train each other. They work together. They prefer. Some people call it racism. I don't. I call it the reality of how society really works. I think we need to change our perception. I think we have plenty of perspective. In other words, we all have a perspective on things, but the way we perceive things is scary. We perceive every challenge as something that's just insurmountable, and it's not true. Every challenge is there to challenge us to overcome them and to grow from these things. Not to lose hope and stop the faithful movement of doing the work and believing and making the sacrifices and being obedient to the goal, to the cause. Every time you punched in the stomach, that doesn't mean you lay down and die. It means you get up. Because you're going to be able to take a bigger punch next time. And you'll have to if you're interested in building a business. You have to build a team. And I'm not going to belabor that. But having a team of people, and especially if you're the leader, having a team of people and having the patience, the understanding, the knowledge to lead that team is very important. And then appreciating the expertise of each person in your team and helping them to develop that. That's important. In show number 4, we talked about economics, what economics was. Economics is a social science. Economics is not about money. It's about understanding people groups. It's about understanding what those people groups are interested in. What do they buy? How do they buy? Why do they buy? The what, when, where, how theory. It's about understanding the effects of inflation. Like gas has gone up since President Biden has been elected. Gas has gone up over 90 cents in most areas. I know it hasn't here in Southern California. That's called inflation. It means your dollar doesn't buy the same amount it bought before And listen, this has nothing to do with politics. Democrats, I'll get into that later. But Democrats, Republicans, they don't have anything to do with what we're saying here. That's economics. That's economics. Having realistic expectations about your team members, changing your own mindset, learning how to build people up, learning how to collaborate instead of tearing down, being selfless. All necessary components with building a business. Keeping the language simple. Learning all the time, getting education, not just on your widget, but on your community, about yourself. Understanding the power of division. It's used in our community all the time. Speaking of minority communities in particular. Understanding that when you're owners, you're not competing. You're collaborating. Players compete. Owners collaborate. I use the example of the NFL. You can use the example of the NBA. You can use the example of a baseball team. You can use the example of a football team. I'm talking soccer team. Collaboration. It's all collaboration. It's all about collaboration. Business owners, not the players on the field, even though they're starting to get a lot more power, but only the power that they're being given by the owners. And the owners aren't competing. The owners are collaborating. You want to tell me, out of all the power that the oil companies have, that one company can't undercut the price of another company? And sell their oil for cheaper, or their gas for cheaper. You tell me, with the amount of profit that they have, you're telling me one couldn't? No, they can, but they don't. They're owners. They collaborate. We talked about the importance of being a visionary. Visionaries take the hits. Visionaries aren't scared of the hits. Visionaries aren't scared to cut down trees because they realize if they're going to get someplace, they're going to have to break new ground. Visionaries also understand that everybody's not going to like him or her. He or she is not trying to be liked by everybody. In the Bible, the principle is a man needs to be loved, strike that, wants to be loved, but needs to be respected. Woman wants to be loved. Man wants to be respected, needs to be respected. Love is cool. But having the mutual respect of your team and other business leaders for the purpose of collaboration, because you're bringing value, is more important even than love, in my opinion. We even talked about the principles of business ownership. The importance of doing research on your idea. Now we're starting to get granular. Researching your idea. Last show in Friday, we talked about, a long recap. Last show Friday, we talked about the importance of market research. Now, don't tell me I haven't given you anything. I had to recap it just to make sure I was giving you something. I think I am. Market research, looked at in the traditional method, can be done by a company called IBIS. or is a bit is. I wish I could pull it up. I just don't know how to use that page yet. But I can pull it up. I just can't show it to you. But the goal is not only to do traditional market research that shows you the numbers in the community. By the way, the market research usually is shot at a high level using top companies because the information is so readily available. What it doesn't show you are the people who are really making an impact and changing the culture because their information is not as readily available, especially regionally. But you still have to have the market research done as well. I'm going to pull one up so I can give you the name of the company that we use. But doing market research is very important. Also very important is understanding the history of whatever your widget is and the history of your community where you want to sell your widget. It may not be where you live because right now everything is international. But understanding the community that you are interested in, whether it's a local community, whether it's a regional community, whether or maybe a state community or national community or an international community. You know, one of my sons lives in Japan, has been there for many, many years. He's a filmmaker, loves writing films. In fact, I have to read one of his scripts that he sent me and his mom and some of his other friends to read. And I read the first part of it, but I didn't read. And then after that, he sent me a whole script. And I want to read it, and I promised him I would read it last weekend. I didn't. But he lives in Japan. He's been living in Japan for many years. He travels back and forth to the United States sometimes. He's traveled Europe. Smart guy. I admire him a lot. What I love about him is he takes the time to research and study wherever he is, whatever he's involved with. Which may be the reason why he got the wife that he got, the child that he has, the respect in his community in Japan that he has with the type of circle he runs around with. It's no joke. I couldn't attract these types of people that he runs around with. It's wonderful. It's amazing. They're all talented people, and they're all very much connected to great mentors. These are just principles that successful people live by. It's called IBIS World, IBIS World. If you're interested in the research in your community, this is what my company uses. Now, if you want to do a report, it's $4,000. That's a different thing. But my point is, you have to read and understand the relationships, not only the nature of the community you're interested in, but the nature of the relationships that you have to earn when in that community. And a lot of that, and we talked about this before, it can't be done without the use of time. And actually looking people eyeball to eyeball and getting to know them and allowing them to get to know you. That's what I'm calling market research. So I just gave you the code market research with IBIS World. That's the code damp market research. That's the tool. And by the way, if you're asking if you could build a business without this, the answer is no. No. You can't build a church without knowing the community that you're in. You won't know where to put the restaurant. You have to do research to put a hospital there. Governments do research to create bond measures. Everybody does research. So if you're trying to start something without understanding the thing that you're starting, that might be a problem. That might be a problem. I think I quoted something to you guys last week. I want to find this quote. I'm going to read two to you because they're important, and I'm doing this because I really want us to get this basic stuff before we move forward. And I hope I'm saying it in a way that the majority of us can relate to. A nation that forgets its past can function no better than an individual with amnesia. That's just powerful. And the last quote I want to give you, because I try to give you quotes, I try to give you books. The last quote I want to give you is from the first American woman to win the Nobel Prize in Literature. And she said this. Her name is Pearl Buck. If you want to understand today, you have to search yesterday. And why am I harping on this? Because I'm tired of black folks in our community constantly bringing up what happened in 1921 in Tulsa, Oklahoma with Black Wall Street, as though there is no way for that not to happen again. And there are plenty of ways for that not to happen again. And if you understand your history, you understand how not to let that happen again. We talked about Ghana. We talked about Kenya. Just as two examples. Just two. We can also talk about Egypt. We could talk about Jamaica. What happened in Jamaica many times was atrocious. I personally think they're still dealing with that. Because the poverty in Jamaica is crazy. And how come Somalia has no water? On one of the most mineral-rich continents in the world. Other than this country, United States of America. And don't get it twisted. The reason why people go different places is not because of the atmosphere of those places. It's because of the mineral-rich nature of those places. You have to understand history and the motivation of the people the people that you're dealing with understand history. You know, people are more interested in raw data, raw materials, because that's where the power is. Where people who just wants a fast buck don't pay attention to that. The power is in the seed. It's in the seed. If you own the seed, you get the plant. Yeah, you got to pull some weeds. You got to do a little watering. You got to till the ground. You have to make sure the ground has enough oxygen, iron in it, that seed will grow. Sure, it takes a lot of work, but you own it. You're a business owner. If you buy the plant, you don't know what kind of seed you got. Because it's not about the plant. I can go buy some grapes at the grocery store and bite into them, and they taste juicy and they're delicious and they're wonderful grapes. Oh my God! But they have no nutrition because they have no seed. They have they have no seed. They're seedless. They're genetically modified. I can't own it. I can consume it, but I can't own it. Business owners want to own the ideas. Business owners. So, um, with that said, you know, I went to a website and checked out um, what was his name? Anyway, but this is what he wrote. He said, at a time when many of the long established practices and assumptions of American managers have fallen. Remember when I was talking to you about the difference between being a leader and a manager? And being both is great, but you really have to know how to focus. And when you start off as a leader, you're going to start off as a manager as well. And there are a lot of great leaders out there. I talked to you about, Tony Robbins. Or maybe I didn't bring up Tony, but I think I did. John Maxwell. I mean, these are just great motivating guys. I don't know what they're like personally. I don't know them personally. But then you have great managers. And then you have great leaders out there. You need both on the team. But anyway, he says American managers have fallen under serious challenge. Practitioners and professors alike have needed to take a hard look. Now listen to this. At how they understand the challenges and responsibilities of management. Why? Because it's completely changed. A changed, competitive world has made answering these and many other such questions a matter of no small urgency. It's all about understanding history. Most people nowadays are not interested. That's why I'm harping on it. They're not interested in studying. We want it now. And we're just going to learn what we learn from whoever we're learning it from right now. And we're going to trust what they say. And what I'm saying in our community, people are coming in telling us certain things that aren't true. And calling things something that they are not to get you to jump on board. Goes on to say, on this task, the study and teaching of history have helped shed much light. If the quality of executives' judgment is to improve, and if executives are to be able to draw with confidence and intelligence on the experience of others, they must first know how to read the lessons embedded in that experience. In other words, experience is when someone does something, blows it, does it again, blows it, does it again, gets somewhere, does it again, gets a little further. That's experience. Some people call it failure. It's experience. It's experience. Learning how about this? Appreciating the lessons embedded in experience. Just appreciating those lessons that are embedded in experience. But you can't appreciate those lessons if you constantly look at them as failures. Or you get into something and it doesn't look the way you thought it would look. Maybe it's because someone didn't tell you what it really was. And maybe no one told them what it really was. 2.2% business owners out of 57 million businesses. Two point two. Yet we can get up every single day and accept what someone gives us. And they're business owners. One of the most challenging things I've ever seen in my life, and I think it brought me to tears at the time. I tend to block things out after a while. But I was in Kenya and I was in a car. And I was dressed pretty well. You know, I had some clothes made in Ghana, so I was wearing those clothes. And I had a 6-hour drive where I was going, and I was going to speak somewhere, or I was going to the hotel or whatever. I think I was going from one place to the other to speak at a church or to a group of leaders, in fact, political leaders and church leaders out of Uganda, because I was right there on the border of Uganda and Kenya. And I was as I was driving, and here I am dressed, and I didn't know, looking back on it, oh my God, you know, it was just overkill. You know, the custom made shirt, you know, the cufflinks, you know, the expensive shoes. It was just overkill for the community that I was serving at the time, as I look back on it. And at least for me. And I'm seeing these kids go off to school, to the Lutheran churches, the Catholic churches. Nothing from Church of God in Christ. Nothing from Full Gospel. Now, doing some reading, I recognized that that NGOs, non-governmental organizations, had to get approval from Kenya, the Kenyan government, to bring in curriculums to teach these kids that I'm now seeing walking as I'm in Kenya. And I'm recognizing that they can afford these polyester suits, but they're struggling to put food on their table. That some of these kids are walking to school and they have no shoes on. But they're wearing these blue skirts and blue shorts and light blue shirts. Some carrying books and some with book bags. No shoes. No paved roads. Well, there were some paved roads, but, you know, not to the degree that we understand it here. And I recognize that these kids are being told that their language, Swahili, is not acceptable. When I was preaching at the church, or speaking, however you want to say it, I was talking to church leaders, a couple of government officials from Uganda, and I said to them, who has the right to come into your country and tell you your language is not acceptable? Talking about understanding your history. What I fast determined is that these kids were learning nothing about their history. Now you could say, well, Paul, you're just speculating. No, my contact in Kenya, who is a church leader, asked me to send him research on his history. He's not aware. He has a college degree. If you want to keep someone in the dark, if you want to keep anyone in the dark, you don't separate them from their future because you steal their hope. You don't separate them from their present because you want them motivated to go and work for you on a day-to-day basis. You separate them from their past, from their history. And in doing such, you can take control over a whole community.